Welcome into the Illini Inquirer Podcast. It is Jeremy Werner, Joey Wagner, ready to preview Illinois getting back on the football field at 2:30 p.m. Central Time on Saturday. Take on Maryland, their penultimate home game, the final 3 games here after an off week. I do want to say, we were trying to get Jeff Ehrman on from our Maryland site. He had a family medical emergency this week, so we're hoping everything's good with him, but that's why we won't have an insider from the opposite team. Jeff does a great job on our Maryland site, but Joey and I will try to fill you in a little bit on what we've learned from Maryland this week. Joey Wagner, how are you, buddy? Good to see you.
I'm good. Happy crossover season. It's in full force. At this point, I say after I took a weekend away and let you and Kyle handle some of the more basketball-related duties, but fun time, busy time. We're good.
Yeah, ready to go. I do want to say this is going to be the military appreciation game for Illinois. Happy Veterans Day to everybody out there. Illinois doing some cool things before this game. Brett Bielema bought up a bunch of tickets, he and his wife and family, for military personnel. So that's really, really cool. The coin toss is going to feature a special military coin. Every year they do the ROTC members rappelling off Memorial Stadium. So that's really cool. And Tim McCarthy, who's a U.S. Secret Service special agent, really cool story. Google Tim McCarthy, Ronald Reagan, some cool stories there. But I do want to wish happy Veterans Day. Appreciate everybody for your service, because obviously if it weren't for you guys who serve, who protect our country, we wouldn't be able to play in the toy department here and talk about sports for a living and enjoy the freedoms to where we can have so much focus on sports. So we appreciate all of you out there who have served, and hopefully you've heard that from many, many people, not only this week, but throughout the year. But it's really cool that Illinois is doing something like that. But here we go, Joey. 6-3, Illinois win over Rutgers, a Rutgers team that beats this Maryland team. This Maryland team has some talent, a lot of freshman talent. The 2 edge players they have, Sidney Stewart and Zahir Mathis, their quarterback, Malik Washington. But with 5 straight losses, Mike Locksley a little under fire coming into this week. I don't know if Maryland can really do better than Mike Locksley. It's a tough job, and I do think he's a good fit there, but certainly they want to end their season well. So they're coming in motivated, but Illinois should come in motivated because they got plenty to play for too.
Yeah, there's a lot to play for Illinois. We'll get into that with the first question. But yeah, it's the Maryland team that, as you said, there's talent there. There's a good amount of talent. Mike Locksley can recruit. He knows that DMV area very well, and he's done well in that spot. I think if you're an Illinois fan, if you're Illinois, you saw the Rutgers game, and you maybe were like, okay, there's a lot of talent there, but there's also some flaws with this Maryland team. They've lost now 5 straight games. And really, like, Indiana was one of those, and that's going to skew some of the numbers. But it wasn't like they lost to Indiana, USC, Ohio State, Michigan, right? I mean, there's some teams that you should feel comfortable if you're Illinois that they lost to, but you also can't just overlook a Maryland team with an incredibly talented quarterback, in particular Malik Washington, who can make life difficult for you.
Yeah, so we'll dive into our 6-pack of questions. We'll do our picks to click. We'll do our bold predictions. We'll dive into all of that. I do want to say we're going to have Katie Hultin on this podcast. Recorded a podcast with her, the Illini soccer coach. What a first year getting the NCAA tournament for the first time in 12 years for this program. Our Saeed Bravo, an intern for us, did a great job catching up with Janet Rayfield, the former Illini soccer coach who played a role in Hultin getting hired. So go check that out on our site. But you'll want to hear from Katie Hultin. So stick around after Joey and I chat about this game to talk about that. There are 2 things I want to hit on before we get into the 6-pack of questions here, Joey. One, Mike Locksley, former Illini offense coordinator, still runs good things offensively after what was a disaster at New Mexico as a head coach, goes through the Nick Saban rehabilitation program and clearly has done pretty good job at Maryland. But Corey Leggett, one of the best defensive linemen in Illinois history, is the defensive line coach at Maryland. 2nd year on staff there. And he's a guy who's donated a lot of money to that Smith Center. So really interesting kind of weekend for him. The other thing I want to hit on is quietly, I don't know if we've brought this up yet, but it's time to talk about it. Illinois is on a pace to set a record for points per game in a season right now. Like, they're 31st in the country, so it kind of gets lost. But this is one of the best offenses Illinois has ever had.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense because it's one of the best quarterbacks Illinois has ever had. It's got a really good offensive coordinator. It's got good skill position players, and the offensive line is playing better. So that makes sense, but I'm glad you brought it up because I do think, and I understand why, like the last month or so so much of the conversation has justifiably been like, this defense, wow, what is wrong with it? How does it get right? If anger, frustration, whatever it is, that's been the dominant conversation. All the while, you've got this offense over here that's scoring a ton of points, moving the ball really well, and has a quarterback that's in the final 4 games, depending on what Luke Altmaier's decision is in the bowl game of his Illinois career, and they're doing some good stuff over on the offensive side. And I'm glad that's not getting lost with all of the questions and understandably frustration around this defense.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the frustration with the defense is you have this
That's
epic
right,
offense that is putting up points that is college football playoff worthy, and the defense clearly is not. The defense has been one of the worst in the Big Ten, but we will dive in to that. So let's start our 6-pack of questions here, Joey, with a big picture one. Number one, what do the final 3 games of this regular season mean for the Illini program?
Yeah, it means a lot. And I'll get to it in a second, but you have a chance to win somewhere between presumably 8 and 10 games in this final stretch. And as you get into a bowl game, getting to 10 would require obviously running the table and beating a pretty good bowl team, right? Because if you get to 9 regular season wins, you've got a good bowl matchup coming up. So I don't want to overlook what back-to-back 8, 9, 10 win seasons could mean for a program that does not have those. I know you well enough to know that you've got all of the stats there baked into that and what it means. But I say that, and I think that is a big deal. I know it's a big deal to be able to do that. You probably end in the college football playoff rankings. There is a point in programs as you look at things that you can't always compare it against the past, though, right? It can't always be, well, be happy with what you got because 8 years ago it wasn't this, or whatever the case is. Context is important. It matters. It matters to show program growth. This team had college football playoff expectations. That is not something that we made up. They talked about it. It was a very big deal. So you do have to say, hey, this could be really good. They missed the playoffs. And that's okay to say they missed the playoffs and be frustrated about that because it happened, but it also can't be everything, right? It can't be, and I get it. I know you and Jay had a really good conversation about this and what it means, but it can't be for every program outside of 12 where it's well, terrible, awful. This isn't even worth it. That can't be the case. You're going to miss some really good ball and some really important things happening in the growth of a program. So yes, it's okay to be frustrated that it's not there, that this program is not going to be in the college football playoffs, but just don't miss what back-to-back 8 or more win seasons can be, because that's a huge deal for Illinois. And maybe eventually if Brett Bielema takes this thing where he wants to be, that'll just be another thing that happens, right? But it's right now in this moment, that's a really big deal.
Yeah, you mentioned, it's a good point. At some point, 8 wins doesn't excite a fan base, right? That shouldn't be this point. I'm just not there yet. I don't think at this program in year 5 of Brett Bielema is there just because he's done it twice already. Stacking those seasons is so important to what he is trying to build. If they only win one of these last 3 games, that's a complete disappointment of a season. Not getting to 10 wins, given what the offense and Luke Altmaier have been and getting to the college football playoff. Yeah, ultimately you don't get to your goal, but I still don't think that only 12 teams should be happy about the end of the season. The college football playoff has suddenly changed. Jay and I talked about it. I don't want to rehash all of it, but just because it's expanded, it doesn't mean it's easy to get to. There probably will only be 3 teams unless USC gets to 10 wins or Michigan gets to 10 wins and beats Ohio State. There might only be 3 Big Ten teams that make the college football playoff. And you can't tell me that only 3 Big Ten teams had good years. Maybe they didn't have great years, but they still could have good years. And I think this is so important to end this season well, to keep that momentum, to sustain success, because at 5-3, it probably felt crappy about where the season was given the expectations. That will change if it's 9-3, no matter who you play. Wins in college football are hard to get. Wins in the Big Ten are hard to get. So Illinois has won 8+ games in 16 seasons. Yes, I got the numbers, Joey. Illinois has won 9+ games in 8 seasons. You can't tell me that if Illinois got to 9 wins, that's not good enough. That's just not where this program is yet for me. And it's won 10+ games in 5 seasons. You can make it 6, and you can do it in back-to-back years. That to me would mean a lot, to have 2 straight years of your best seasons, 2 of the best seasons in the modern history of this program. And really, if you just want to go individually, this is a chance for a lot of guys, Joey, to really help themselves for the NFL because Illinois got a lot of NFL prospects, but I think a lot of them are day 3 or borderline NFL draft picks. So Gabe's going to get drafted, but he can help himself these final couple games. JC Davis, I think, will get drafted, but he can help himself. But guys like Josh Geske, Melvin Priestley, Hank Beatty, Matthew Bailey, there's so much to play for. So maybe you're not going to go to Notre Dame in late December and play a playoff game, a really, really hard playoff game. But you could be in Florida or Nashville around New Year's playing an SEC team again. You could be in Vegas playing a Big 12 team around New Year's. That's fun, Joey. And to me, that would be a pretty successful season for Illinois. And that all helps recruiting. It all helps donations, all helps ticket sales. And the difference between, say, 7 wins and 9 wins over this last month, it's huge. It's huge for the program. So I think it's important for Illinois to focus with this coaching staff. I have no concerns about that with the experience level on this team, but it's not going to be easy to win 3 straight games in the Big Ten, even if you're favored. So they have to play well, just like they did last season. So yeah, I think this is really important to keep things moving with this program because Illinois fans listening to this, you will feel better if you have 9 wins compared to being 5-3 a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, all the way in on that. And again, I do think at some point, and maybe it's after this, maybe it's after next, at some point the expectations for a program are solely set on what's happening in front of you and not what happened 30 years before this stretch of football. But I do think it's a good measuring stick to say, hey, back-to-back wins or back-to-back 8 would be the first time since 1990. Is that right, Jeremy?
Seven would be 1990. 7 win seasons back to back would be 1990. So I get it. I probably will stop doing that next year, guys. I probably will stop that. I'm not yet because they haven't done it. They haven't had back to back good years in 2 generations. You haven't had back to back good years in 3 and 4 years. I still think that means something. So 2026, if they have 9 wins, Joey, or go to the bowl game and win 10 games, I'll stop talking about it. But until they do it, right? Like, they still have to raise that level. And I think that's what this last 3 games is doing is raising that level. And then, 2026, I'm not going to have college football playoff expectations unless they have the number 1 transfer portal class in the country, like Texas Tech or something like that. But maybe 2027, when you have that experience, you have a quarterback that's been there for a year, maybe that's when we lift it to, okay, now it's college football playoff time.
Yeah. My final point on it is, again, I get it. If you're disappointed, I understand that because the expectations were set differently for how this final 3 games, like what this should mean in terms of pushing towards the playoffs. So I understand that. Like,
it'd be like if your Packers this year make the playoffs, lose round 1, right? And
yeah,
like that would be how it would kind of feel. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. But again, I also think, and to your point, like I do like using where this program had been for context. It's been a hell of a job to get this thing to this point. But on the other side of it, I think if you and I, and we've done this and we've seen it in our live chats or on our message boards or wherever, it's like, quit waiting for the other shoe to drop and this thing to fall back. Like we talked about that. Then it's also kind of on us to be like, okay, well, this is a different thing now, right? And like, you can't really live in both of those worlds. But again, I do think right now it is a good measuring stick to show where this is and contextually, historically, how good this stretch of football has been in when the cloud of no playoff kind of feels like it is just right there.
Yeah. And I think, what will happen with Brett in year 7, year 8 is what happened with Brad Underwood in year 7 and year 8. It's like, okay, round of 32s are cool. It's time to get into the second weekend. It's time to make Elite 8 and a Final 4, right? Like that's how this team is going to be held. Like this team's got to be a second weekend team for Brad. And I think for a lot of fans to think that's success. And that's what he has brought. He keeps talking about national championships, and there's reason to believe in that. I don't think this was a national championship roster. I think this was a team that had the chance, if things went well, to get into that playoff, probably lose the first round, right? But just to check that off would have been massive for this program. But that they still have a lot to accomplish here. All right, let's go to number 2. Give me an Illini offensive player you think is set up for a strong finish to the season, Joey. Like Aiden Walker last year was this guy, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, if you're going to stick with the running back, I think that's the answer. The answer is Luke Altmaier, first of all. Like, that's just a blanket answer because he's so freaking good at what he does. And I need to see, I've lost my statistics. I had a bold prediction with Kirk Kittner before the season. I think we're pretty far off that pace. but it's still attainable. So just blanket answer, Luke Altmaier could be that guy. I like how Caden Fagan's been running. I really think like the yards aren't there. So if you're reading this or if you're hearing this and you're going up to look at the yard, like the last 3 games, the yardage totals aren't there. So if you hear it's like, what are you talking about? Watch him run. There's decision there. Even on the pass, the reception against Rutgers, he lowered his shoulder and it's like, yo, whereas like that is who you are. Like that is what you do. I think the context of the stats the last few games is Ohio State, that thing was over before it started. You had to throw your way back in to Washington. And Rutgers didn't really care to cover Luke Altmaier as a runner, so you're not going to go away from that. But the eye test looks good for Caden Fagan. He's running it confidently. And I also think these last 3 games, if the offense does, whether I think the offense can do early, that could set up for this offensive line to lean on some of those other defensive fronts. And when you're doing that, when you're trying to milk the game away, you probably want to give the ball to the big dude who can punish some of those linebackers, some of those secondary guys as runners. So he feels due for a big one. Maryland, 16th in the Big Ten in rushing defense. Wisconsin's a tough one. Wisconsin is ranked 7th. For all of the problems in Madison, that defense has been good and has really given them more of a chance probably than that offense is deserved in some of those games. Northwestern 11th in the Big Ten in rushing defense. So I think the opportunity can be there for Caden Fagan. And I'm basing that a little bit off of just how you see some of the cuts, some of the power, some of the decision that you've seen from him in his opportunities the last 3 games.
Yeah, I think there's at least one big game in there. Like one big game. It's just he's sharing the ball with 3 other dudes, including Luke Altmaier, right? So that's where the stats might not come in. But I think by the eye test, most people can see. And you talked to Thad Ward about it, and he said the same thing. So I had Caden Fagan here written on my list. Just to talk about Luke Altmaier for a second. He is on pace. He's got 250 yards a game. So times that by 3, 750. He's got 2,255 yards. So if he goes on his pace, he would be the first quarterback since Nathan Sheilhouse in 2013 to throw for 3,000 plus yards, become just the 7th quarterback in Illini history to do that. And Joey, he has 19 touchdown passes right now. So he's not yet on pace to beat Kurt Kittner's 27, which you said in your bold predictions, he would tie him, but he's got a chance, especially if he plays in the bowl game, 4 games, 2 touchdowns each. He's got a real chance to do that. So Luke Altmaier is putting together one of the best quarterback seasons in Illinois history. If you go by passing efficiency, it would be. Now, back in the day, Kurt Kittner passing attacks, didn't have as many short completions, and it was just a different game. But he would set that record. And it would just be the 3rd guy, I think. 4 of the top 5 passing efficiency seasons would be under Barry Lunny. Pretty good.
Probably going to be on a resume somewhere, I would imagine.
Probably pretty good. All right. We could mention Cole Rusk. He got hurt in the last game. Sounds like he should be back, but obviously he's been rising, and he's a guy I'd like to get some targets. He's a guy I'd like to have back on the team next year. So to make him feel like a big part of the offense, I think can be important. This might be a layup, Joey, but can I go Hank Beatty? Yeah. I'm just going to go Hank Beatty because he has the chance to become the 8th receiver in program history to top 1,000 receiving yards in a single season. And to do it in the regular season, he'd have to get 90 yards per game. I think he'd play in the bowl game, but I do think it's meaningful for Illinois to have another 1,000-yard receiver. Plus, just I think against the opponents, you're going to want to get the ball in your best players, playmakers' hands outside of Luke Altmaier. So I think Hank Beatty, huge part of this offense. I did think, was it Barry this week? Or no, it was Brett this week who talked about maybe they should have gotten the ball in more creative ways to Isaiah Williams, like the throwing and passing and all that. But I think they were really cognizant that Isaiah is the quarterback thing. They just didn't want to lean into that too much. But I just think Hank Beatty's going to have his hands all over the final 3 games here. He gets targeted so much, and he's so close to that big personal goal that Illinois wanted Pat Bryant to get that touchdown record. I'm sure they'd like to get Hank Beatty 1,000 yards here.
Yeah, I'm with you. You know how else I want to see Hank Beatty for a strong finish? Let the defense give him a chance to return a couple more punts.
Yes.
That is what I want to see, because you know what? I don't know that he needs to continue to prove himself as a punt returner in terms of how the NFL views him. I think he's pretty much shown that that's something he can do at a high level, but that is such a gateway to him to push for that NFL, whether it's a draft pick, whether it's just getting into a camp. Again, I don't know that it's like, he's really got to prove it. He's proven it, but I'd like to see him be able to puff up some numbers and get a chance. I don't feel like, when was the last time
I was gonna ask you,
yeah,
do you know how many punt returns he has in Big Ten play? 6 games. How many punt returns Hank Beatty has?
10?
3.
Oh,
3 for
no.
not for 18 yards. He had 2 for 19 against Western Michigan. He had 4 for 133 against Western Illinois in the opener. He's only had 5 punt returns in the last 8 games. Now, part of that
Yeah,
is teams not punting to him, and part of that is just the defense not forcing punts.
yeah, you got to get that number up though. You got to give that guy a couple opportunities, and like we say, that's not on Hank. I mean, you got to give that guy some opportunity to make some plays back there because he's really dynamic as a punt returner.
Could be a game changer. Illini fans, you've been hearing about our new sponsor for the past few weeks, and that's Game Day Spirit. And with all the action at Illinois, whether it's the game against Maryland this weekend, the 2 men's basketball games, volleyball as well, you got to get in there and check out their new Illini gear. In the last week, they've dropped some new Nike Quarter Zips and their new take on a Champagne classic, the House of Pain sweatshirt. You got to get in there, check these out if you're local before your next game. If you live outside, 217 area code, be sure to shop with them online at GameDaySpirit.com. They also just announced the new date of their winter stadium sale. So make sure to mark your calendars for Saturday, December 6th. For those of you who haven't been, there's a massive sale on Illini gear that takes place twice a year in Memorial Stadium. You can save big on Illini gear. Products up to 80% off, and they'll even have a selection of Fighting Illini equipment room gear, just like the players and coaches wear. You won't want to miss the stadium sale Saturday, December 6th from 9 to 1 at Memorial Stadium. Brought to you by the official fan store, the Fighting Illini Game Day Spirit. All right, number 3, Joey, flip it. An Illini defensive player you think is set up for a strong finish to the season.
Yeah, I was back and forth between 2 guys, and maybe this is also a layup, but you've seen how Matthew Bailey's playing right now, right?
My guy.
I took your guy. I thought I could. I was between he and Gabe, so maybe Gabe was your number 2 there. Matthew Bailey's playing really, really good football right now. After that Purdue game was rough, right? But after that, we haven't really talked about bad Matthew Bailey games. You're starting to see him put all of this together. Now, if you're Illinois, obviously you would like Matthew Bailey to put a strong final 3 or 4 games together here. That's going to lead to some draft questions for Matthew Bailey after the season. So it's a catch-22 a little bit. Maryland's been pretty good about taking care of the football. When I say Matthew Bailey, I know he's good in the run game. I know he's better in coverage. You've seen that improve. I want to see a couple, like I'm envisioning Sidney Brown takeaways in 2022. Just get a couple of those. Maryland doesn't really do that. Malik Washington is like the freshman who doesn't get sacked and doesn't throw a ton of picks on a not very good team. Those 3 things don't usually happen for one guy, right? You're either on a good team and you don't have to worry about it, or if the team's bad like Maryland has been of late, all those things are piling up. So maybe you don't see the turnovers there, but you could see him involved in the run game. They throw to their tight end. Maryland does a good bit. That would feel like Matthew Bailey territory. But then you get beyond that. If you really want to see some turnovers, Wisconsin and Northwestern have combined to throw 19 interceptions. 19. That is an enormous number. And this defense plays for as much as we talk about the free safety spot. When that strong safety spot is causing turnovers, go back to the end of 2022. And I know Sidney Brown's not really the most fair because he's so freaking good. And he was a 3rd-round pick. But that position takes a lot of footballs, right? They intercept a lot of footballs. So I really like kind of what Matthew Bailey has done. I like the opportunity in front of him. And if he gets 2 or 3 takeaways, now we're talking like that is a big thing. That is a huge conversation down here in this final stretch of the season.
Yeah, I had Matthew Bailey as my guy, and he ended the season so well last year. And I think it's set up kind of similarly where some of the worst teams you play, some of the worst offenses you play. Now, Maryland can move the ball, but you're going up against them. The passing offenses coming up are not very good by passing efficiency. These are 3 of the bottom 25 in the FBS. So this is like 115 and below in passing efficiency. 3 of the worst 4 in the Big Ten by passing efficiency. That should allow Joey Aaron Henry to be more aggressive, less 2 and 3 deep safeties, more single safety back. Miles Scott is your free safety. Let Matthew Bailey roam, confuse the quarterbacks, blitz, and just wreak havoc in the middle of the field. And that's what we saw him do last year. And I think part of it scheme-wise with how much zone they've had to run is kind of taking Matthew Bailey out of that. now you can be aggressive. Now you can man these guys up a little bit more, at least half the time. And we saw it against Rutgers. You saw Matthew Bailey kind of doing what, I know we compare it to Sid, but even last year, Matthew Bailey, but just moving around, confusing pre-snap, and just being aggressive in the box. So I do think Matthew Bailey is set up to end well. One more guy I will mention. I got to look up the numbers because I don't know. I mean, Jaheim Clark's playing really well, but I do feel like I'd like to see Joe Barna get a little bit more involved in the defense, because he's going to be really important for you next year. Yeah, there's the sign guy. And he has played, 28 to 30 snaps over most of this season and most of Big Ten play. And you think you're losing Gabe Backus, you're losing Leon Lowry, you're losing Alec Bryant. Joe Barna's got to be a starter next year. So I want to start to see starter things. And he's really solid against the run. But I'd like to see him make an impact in that pass rush. And I think he's capable of that. So he's another guy I'm really going to key in on to see how does he develop? How does he end the season leading into what is a huge role for next year, Joey?
Yeah, I like that answer. You haven't seen some of those flash plays I thought you would see. Really, that the way he was hyped at the end of training camp was like, oh, there's no doubt he's going to be one of those guys. And yeah, they need Joe Barna in a big way next season. And if teams are going to kind of throw everything at Gabe, if Illinois is going to run some of those 5-man fronts, please do that more. Like that would seem to open the door for Joe Barna to take that. I do think there's something to be said. And we talked about Hank Beatty, but just the confidence that Hank Beatty closed last year with, and how that gave way into a spring, into the summer, into the fall, and now into this season. I'm not trying to say that Joe Barna's going to be for this defense what Hank Beatty has been for the offense next season, but I do think there's something to be said for taking that confidence, taking that momentum into the offseason, and especially when you know that the coaching staff, I would assume, is going to empower Joe Barna quite a bit to be that guy as an edge rusher. So that's a good one there. Another guy I thought about, just another Dylan Rosiak, because I just think he's a really good football player. And when he's out there and when he's healthy, he's proven to be a very, very good football player. Angelo McCollum would fit into that conversation as well. And maybe Tanner Heckel is a guy who kind of can build that up against not very good passing offenses, right? That's the thing that Illinois is coming up against. Maybe that could be a chance for Heckel to have some of those opportunities to really put some games together, stack some games.
All right, Joey, let's dive into the Maryland side of this. What is the biggest key for the Illini offense against a Maryland defense that leads the Big Ten with 17 interceptions, 4 pick sixes on the season, and a couple of those are in Big Ten play? They intercepted Nico Amaliva. They intercepted Dylan Raiola for a pick 6. So these have happened against some pretty talented quarterbacks. Also get after the quarterback. They're tied for 4th in the Big Ten with 24 sacks. So what do you think is the biggest key for them against the Terps?
This is so elementary. Don't turn the ball over. Like that, 17 interceptions is bonkers. Like, think back. You know how we talk about that 22 Illinois defense? They had 24. I mean, I obviously understand that's still 7 away, but 17 is an absurd number of interceptions for a team that really isn't very good, right? I mean, it's not like they're taking that and doing a great deal with it. But if you don't turn the ball over, if you're able to get out there, let Luke Altmaier, let your running game do what it's done to this point of the season, score points, get up, make sure Malik Washington doesn't beat you, then you can lean on that running game in the second half and really control the trenches, play in that kind of long, elongated 4-minute mode here and get out of there. You turn it over, things can get a little bit weird in Big Ten play. So and Luke Altmaier's been good about not doing that. I think you and I have, and we could do it again if we really want to. There's a lot of context around Luke Altmaier's interceptions here in the last few games, and most of them have been batted balls. I mean, very, very few times are you like, whoa, what are you doing here? I don't understand that.
That was a great Californians impression. What are you doing here? But there was one that he forced.
Ohio State. There was one against Ohio State that I thought he underthrew Hank Beatty. That in one against coverage
too, where he kind of really sailed it down the field. This is a game where, Luke, you don't have to force it. You don't have to take your check down because this secondary's got talent. Like the Glasgow kid at cornerback is really good. Their 2 freshman defensive or edge rushers can really get after you. Zahir Mathis, 6'6", 225. He looks like Dylan Stewart from last year against South Carolina. Sidney Stewart, who is a cousin of Derek Queen, he's been even better. He's a 3-star prospect, but can really get after the quarterback. So just move the ball down the field. You don't have to take chances because they will take advantage of it. Just take what they give you and move the ball down the field. I don't think Luke needs to force it into tight windows, which, as you said, Joey, he's usually pretty good about. Like, we're sitting there going, oh yeah, there's just one throw. It doesn't happen that often.
Right. And again, like, you can explain away most of the interceptions that Luke Altmaier has. So I'm not super worried about it, but you don't have to do anything crazy. It doesn't feel like, I mean, you got to make plays. You got to be sharp. You can't just come in here and sleepwalk it, but you don't have to be the reason Illinois wins this game. You could be one of the reasons Illinois wins. You can get through without Luke Altmaier having to do too much.
My key is establish physicality and run the ball down their throats, because as good as those freshmen are at rushing the passer, they're not as big as Melvin Priestley and J.C. Davis and Josh Geske and Brandon Henderson in this Illinois offensive line. And Maryland is really struggling to hold up against the run against Nebraska, UCLA, Indiana, and Rutgers. So a mix of good teams, middle teams, subpar teams. They've allowed an average of 252 rushing yards per game, 6 yards per carry during their last 4 games. Meanwhile, Joey, we've seen the Illini rushing attack, I think, really improve. What they did against USC was really good. Ohio State, I thought they were competitive if you take out the sacks, which is a good thing against Ohio State. I thought they were running the ball really well against Washington in those first 3 quarters. They just never got a chance to kind of lean on them because the defense kept giving up touchdowns, so they had to air it out. And then Rutgers, they had 210 rushing yards. So this just feels like one of those games where Illinois can really set the tone up front right away and kind of lean into that rushing attack to create some space for Luke Altmaier in that passing attack, and to put Luke Altmaier in 3rd and shorts, 2nd and shorts, where they can take advantage of some of those man-to-man coverages and use a good wide receiver crew. So I do think this is a game where Illinois is going to want to establish the physicality. That's what they did last year late in these games, and they kind of ran the ball down people's throats. You'd love to see that because I think the potential has been there. We talked about it going into the Rutgers game, Joey, and it showed. Now it was Luke Altmaier running it, but this is a tough rushing attack, I think, as the season goes on.
Yeah, I'm with you. And Maryland's defense is incredibly talented. I don't want to come off, especially since we don't have anyone this week with, like, I don't want to come off as like, Illinois is going to move the ball like crazy. But I will say, during Maryland's 5-game losing streak, it is averaging and allowing an average of 33.6 points, 466 total yards, 224.8 rushing yards, 241.2 passing yards. I know you named off the teams. Indiana changed some of that a little bit, but not drastically. If you go through game by game, Indiana didn't drastically, like Illinois, and kind of some of that stretch for Indiana would look like it did that. So yeah, this is a defense that's struggling, probably getting a little bit worn down. It's not a very deep team that Maryland plays. So there should be opportunity there. It's just such a weird defense, man. It is such a weird defense.
They got edge playmakers, right? Like the guys at corner, the guys on the edge are good playmakers. They have one good linebacker, but the depth you've talked about, like I think those edge guys need to come out a little bit more, but they're freshmen. They're still young. They're still maturing physically. I think you can lean on them. And that's part of why they're losing games late. Like they have lost so many leads late. This should be a bowl team. If they could, they were up on Washington. They were up on Nebraska in the 4th quarter and blew those leads. I think in part because this defense gets really worn down late in games, but you can run on them. Like you can move the ball on them, but they are opportunistic and they can make big plays, whether it's sacking the quarterback, stripping the quarterback, or, taking advantage of any ball thrown in the air, because they run a lot of zone. They have their eyes on the quarterback. So they are very opportunistic, but down to down, they give up a lot.
Yeah, really. 17 turnovers. This is kind of what the defense is. It's just, you don't see that a lot. I mean, that is an absurd difference in takeaways and production.
All right, let's go to number 5. What is the biggest key for the Illini defense going up against Maryland? A very talented freshman quarterback, Malik Washington. I think it's Mike Loxley's biggest sign of hope and why he should be there for the future, because Malik is a really good freshman quarterback, 13 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. His completion rate is below 60%, but they chuck the ball around the yard, Joey. A veteran offensive line as well. Not the most physical rushing attack, not the most yards per catch, but they can score some points and move the ball down the field. So what's the biggest key for the Illini defense here?
I people are going to turn off 33 minutes into this because I liked what Aaron Henry has said in the last 8 days with the 2 times we've talked to him about pressure. Heat up Malik Washington. Get some pressure on the guy. Like, don't, and I don't get the sense just in the way that Aaron Henry talked on Monday and how he talked last week. I don't get the sense they're going to roll the DeMond Williams defensive game plan out for Malik Washington. So try to push him
because he can run. Sorry to interrupt you, Joey, but he can run. It's not a huge part of his game, but he can prolong plays. He's a big physical guy, good athlete. But last game against Rutgers, he had 164 yards rushing on 8 carries, 2 really explosive runs, including like a 70-yard touchdown. So that had to do with a lot of he can do it. He doesn't do it a ton though.
Yeah, and you know what? If he chunks a couple runs with his feet, live with it. Right? Like, I think you can live with that if it means that you're getting pressure on him. He does not throw very well under pressure. Very few quarterbacks do. Very few freshman quarterbacks do. Right? But just try to make him uncomfortable. The 5-man fronts and man-to-man behind it, great, excellent. Do more of that. Let Gabe Akis go bear down on a freshman quarterback on the road. Let Joe Barna
bear down, Joe.
No, sir. Into this thing now. No, sir.
Stop the count.
But let him. I hate you. Let him get after a freshman. I did like that Aaron talked about the value of pressure. Now, you wish that you would have seen that more in Washington, but if Malik Washington escapes, he doesn't get sacked really at all, which is crazy. He's been pressured like a very nice number, 69 times, but he's only been sacked twice. Like, that's crazy. Impressive. That is crazy for a freshman to have that many pressures and not get sacked that many times. But here's the thing. I don't think you have to worry about him launching this thing all over the yard. 38 of his 304 passes, only 38 have come of 20 or more yards. He's very comfortable throwing it underneath, some of those intermediate routes. So make those lanes difficult. Get in his face. Make it hard where he's got to make those decisions quickly. And don't get so worried about him throwing it deep. Don't get so worried about him beating you with his legs. Adjust to that if it happens, but try to make his life tough.
Yeah. By the way, as we're recording this, Trevor Valise just sent us the text that Illinois is opening the season next year against UAB on September 5th, 2026. What if Barry Lundy's the head coach of UAB there, Joe?
I saw that right when we started and you were talking about real stuff and I didn't want to interrupt you, but I'm glad. Yeah, I was just going to say, who's going to be the head coach of UAB? That, by the way, just to tidy things up, finishes out the non-conference with Duke, with Southern Illinois. That is replacing Mizzou. So there's your Mizzou replacement game in 2026 in Champaign. We'll see who the head coach of UAB is going to be.
That's gonna be really. That's one I actually had marked for Barry. So really interesting one there. Yeah, you said it. Heat up the quarterback. He's a very talented player, and by this point, like late in the season, he's got a lot of reps. He's getting better. He's getting smarter. But I still like to pressure a teenage quarterback, force him to throw into tight windows. And this Maryland wide receiver crew, I'm kind of used to like Maryland wide receivers being studs, like dating back to when Stephon Diggs was there. And they've had some really good players there. They have 26 drops this season. So I'm manning them up. I'm getting some pressure on them. Maybe you don't get them to the ground, but you force some incompletions. You force 3rd and longs. I want to see that. But they get the ball out quick. His average distance of throw is the lowest in the Big Ten. It's tied for the 3rd lowest in the country behind, I think it's Garrett Nussmeier and one more quarterback. So they get the ball out quick, a lot of hitches, a lot of slants, screens, drags, checkdowns to the tight end. They use the tight end and running backs in the passing game a lot, but they pass the ball about 60% of the time. So you do need to tackle well in space, Joe. If you're going to go man-to-man coverage like this, you do have to tackle well in space. So, but I would trust Miles Scott in this game to stop any of these big plays. Let Matthew Bailey roam around. Let your front 5 get after the quarterback and force this freshman to throw into some tight windows. And if you play man coverage, maybe you can actually get to the quarterback a little bit because he's hesitant to throw it. So I agree. Be aggressive. He's a freshman quarterback. If he beats you, okay, you can make some adjustments at some point. But that's how I come out and play.
Yeah, and I just hearing Aaron talk about bringing pressure made me feel good. I also think that again, he can run. I'd rather go back in retrospect, like, all right, we got to stop his legs than going the full DeMond Williams experience. And that really feels more and more like an outlier to me, the way that they approached him. Because even with some of the other mobile quarterbacks that Illinois has gone against this year, it hadn't been to that level of panic and fear that he was going to run all over him.
Yeah, and I imagine they'll have a spy on Malik Washington. Like one of the linebackers will be accountable for him. It will be interesting. Do they go, talking with Terrence Jamison, the 5-man front, they felt good against Rutgers. Do you feel that way against this Maryland team that spreads it out a little bit more than Rutgers, who like to run the ball? Maybe you see more 4-man front. Maybe we see some more 3. Maybe you see more linebackers basically on the field is what I'm saying. And one of those guys could account for a guy like Malik Washington, whether it's Malachi Hood, James Krutz, whoever it is. We'll see. One play can change a season. One upset can silence a stadium. With every snap, the stakes get higher, and no one brings you closer to the action than DraftKings Sportsbook, the #1 sportsbook for live betting. From live betting to odds boosts and so much more, DraftKings Sportsbook has everything you need to stay in the action from kickoff to the final whistle. New customers, this one is for you. Bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get paid out $300 in bonus bets instantly. Own every Saturday with DraftKings. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code Illini. That's code Illini to turn $5 into $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas. Pass-through of per wager tax may apply in Illinois. 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Restrictions apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets, which expires in 7 days. Minimum odds required. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. Limited time offer. All right, it's crossover season for Illinois football and Illinois basketball, and there's some mornings where I'm trying to get to an airport for a road game or trying to get down to Champaign early for a football game. I'm racing out the door and I realize, nope, didn't even make breakfast. And that sometimes means you skip a meal, or even worse, you go to the gas station and get something greasy and you just don't feel well the rest of the day. Now I just grab a Huel ready-to-drink Black Edition. This one's my go-to because it keeps me full and focused. Each bottle's got 35 grams of protein, 6 grams of fiber, and 27 essential vitamins and minerals. No sugar added, gluten-free, and still under $5 a meal. Honestly, it's been a game changer. Fewer hangry mornings, I definitely get that. Smoother workouts, and I actually stay on track with my goals without stressing about what to eat. So Huel just makes healthy eating simple, whether you're busy, traveling, or just tired of skipping meals. And cool update, Huel is now in Target stores nationwide. If you want to try it out, new customers can get 15% off with our code Illini at Huel.com/Illini. That's HUEL.com/Illini. That's 15% off your first order, minimum $75 purchase. Use our code, fill out the post-checkout survey, and help support the show. Huel.com/Illini for 15% off. All right, expanding on the defense, Joey. Last one here. What would give you encouragement about the defense after this game? Or you can expand it to the final 3 games here. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I want to expand it a little bit for the final 3 games, because I think we have a big question about what this defense looks like in 2026. One, like you've got to be the reason. How do I want to phrase this? It can't just be like if you go 3-0 in the final 3 games of the regular season, it can't be only because the offense was so good. You have to show some sign of like, man, that defense played well against 3 opponents. That defense should play well against. But beyond now I don't really know how to quantify that. So hopefully you can take this gibberish.
Well, no, I have a number in my head, but you're right, because this offense is good enough to win the final 3 games against these opponents by itself. Wisconsin's a really good defense. But you want to win also because of your defense. Like you want the defense to be a part of these wins like it was against Rutgers, right? Like that was the defense was a big part of that. The defense gave up a bunch of yards against Duke, but they were a big reason they won that game. They're a big reason they were ahead at halftime because of the takeaways. They're a big reason they set up the offense with short fields with all their takeaways. So that's what you want to see, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I really wrote down a lot of words here, and some of I don't really know that any of them make sense. Take the ball away, show improvement on 3rd down, fix the things that have hurt you to this point. Like, I want to see real growth in the things that have been really to your detriment to this point of the season. Third down being one of those takeaways. You do need to get a few more of those. I mean, you just absolutely do. I want to see some of those
first 3 games when that's all they did.
Yes,
I mean, it has so many takeaways.
And it wasn't like you had a lot against Duke. It wasn't like you just picked off Western Illinois and Western Michigan a ton, right?
Yeah, because isn't like 6 of the interceptions Maryland has against Florida Atlantic or something like that? Like they
right. Yeah, that's right. I want to see some of those Rutgers adjustments carry over, and this is where I kind of started to overthink, and then we jumped onto pod. I wanted them to establish an identity. Like, that's what I want to see in the final 3 games is I want to know who this defense is. What do you want to be? Like, there's something to be said about adjusting your game plan week to week to fit opponents. You have to do that. That's just literally, that is just football. But I also feel like there's been such wide swings of adjustments that I don't know what this defense wants to be and what its identity is. If you want to be a 5-man front, if you want to run man and say, hell, we're going to get beat a couple of times, but I know who you are, that's fine. But like, just these huge swings in either direction of, you're not going to bring anyone, you're going to drop everyone, you're going to bring 5, you're going to play man, you're going to play, like, who are you? Show me who this defense is in the final 3 games. And maybe the answer is not a very good one, right? But just show me some sort of schematically what you want to be, what you want to say. That is what the Illinois defense does.
Great way of putting it. It's almost a perfect way of putting it is, what are you? Because I do feel like, last year they kind of had the identity of keep things in front of us, but we don't let these guys go for explosives. They're really good at that. This year it started off takeaways, like just getting all these takeaways. And then it just felt like you played some great offenses. USC, Indiana was a disaster for everybody. Purdue, you just missed some assignments. Ohio State, I think they played well. Washington is the disaster. It was just the absolute disaster along with Indiana. But it just feels like you've gotten so concerned about what other teams do. That's like, yes, you got away from, what do you do? Like, what are you supposed to do? And no matter what you think of Ryan Walters, it's what I love about it. It's what I love about his defense is that he understands he's going to give some things up, but boy, he's going to bring the aggression to you. Like, he's going to be aggressive. He's going to have his guys playing with its hair on fire. And I just feel like this team got so lost in what it wanted to be and didn't have an idea of what it wanted to be. It was so scared of everybody else that all its aggression was taken away. It was just thinking way too much. Whatever you got to do to make these guys not think. And I thought that's what they did against Rutgers. Do that again. Keep doing what you did against Rutgers. That's a good offense. I mean, they put 35 up against Maryland. They put 30 in a lot of these Big Ten games. Washington, they exploded. So I had hold all these teams to 21 points and under. You should do that. I think I want to keep Wisconsin at 10 or under based on their quarterback play right now. And, they could hold the Illinois offense to 24 or 21 points. But if you hold them under 21 points or under, that's what you should be doing. That's what you should be doing against most of these teams. Now that you're out of the really elite offenses here in the Big Ten. But that's my expectation for Illinois football is to have a defense that keeps teams in the 20s or under and gives you a chance to win. And with this offense, if you have them under 21 points, you're going to win games. And that's very complimentary. This isn't a dominant defense. I'm not expecting them to be 2022. The talent's not there, especially without Xavier Scott. But against these teams, 21 points and under, I think is the way to do it. But the big picture is just be complimentary to a great offense. Like, that's all you have to be.
Yeah, we say that, but I also want to point out, like, even if you want to get a little aggressive, maybe you get beat. Like, you don't want to get beat to the number of times they got beat at Purdue. Just, hey, if you get beat, if you give up a chunk, you've got a super good offense that's probably going to bail you out of that. You can't do it a lot. You can't get beat all the time. But if you get beat being aggressive versus get beat like being tentative and just nickel and diming down the field like teams have done with very minimal pushback, that's where I have a problem. Like,
the USC game didn't bother me. Like, the USC game, you just got beat. Like, Mekhi Lemon's going to beat Tanner Heckel most of the time, and Jaden Maeva made some unbelievable throws.
Yeah.
That game didn't concern me. Washington, you just let them beat you, right? Ohio State, I thought you were competitive. You just got put on short fields by your offense. The offense didn't do its job that day. The special teams didn't do its job that day. But Washington, you just let them beat you.
Yeah, perfectly said. I don't know how that came out of a bye week, an off week. I don't understand how that level of just, Yeah, you're right. Just being tentative. They got beat by, like, they let them beat them. Again, like, if you're going to bring a little heat, if you're going to play man and someone gets you, someone gets you. And Luke Altmaier's probably going to go get someone on the other side of the field, right? You can wash it off a little bit. You can't do it all the time. I just want to see who this is. Like, what is this defense? I don't know. That's what's been frustrating. To echo your point, is they've kind of shifted so much from week to week. It's like, I get it. I understand what you're doing, but I don't know who you are. I don't know what this group, this defense can be from an identity standpoint. And I hope you see that here in these final 3 games.
And I feel like even though you're not the most talented defense, you got some good players. Like Gabe Akis is a great college football player. Matthew Bailey's a great college football player. James Thompson's very good. Tommy Wadurajai is very good. Dylan Roziak's a nice Big Ten football. Like, you got to get the most out of them. And you weren't for about a month and a half there. Like Rutgers, you did. Like, I got to see more of that, where it feels like your best players are playing their best and putting them in positions to succeed. So that's what I want to see from Aaron Henry's group. All right, let's go to our picks to click. Joey, I'll let you start off with the offense. Who's your pick to click against Maryland?
I mean, I feel like since I said Caden Fagan earlier, I kind of want to go back to Caden Fagan. I do think it has to be a running back, because I think you're going to have a chance to lean on this Maryland defensive front. I think Caden Fagan will have a nice game. I'm just going to go totally off of Khalil Valentine.
I had him listed. Yeah, go for him.
Yeah, I obviously this is an athletic, a very talented defensive front for Maryland. It just feels like Valentine's kind of due for one. I think Fagan is going to have a nice game. We'll see where Aiden Lawfrey is. I just kind of feel like we haven't talked a lot about Khalil Valentine, even though he does all of the things where you're like, yo, he looks pretty good. So I'm just going to – it's got to be a back in my opinion. So let's say him.
Since the Purdue game, he had 3 carries, 6 yards against Ohio State, 7 carries, 27 yards against Washington, 12 carries, 37 yards against Rutgers. Does feel like that there's going to be a correction there at some point. I'll go with Caden. It was going to go with Caden or Khalil, so it's same reasons that you said earlier. I just feel like this should be a good running game, and I do feel like they're going to pound into submission at some point. I just don't know if you're going to need to run Luke as much, and they're probably going to be ready for that. I would hope so, a little bit more than Rutgers was a couple of weeks ago. So I'm going to go with Caden just because I think some holes are going to open, and I do think the interior of this offensive line is going to give him some opportunities. All right, pick to click defense. Who you got, Joey?
Oh, can we go back just real quick? How did Rutgers not cover Luke Altmaier as a runner? Like, that's not the first time he's ever run, and then they never course corrected. That was so, in terms of things opposing teams have done to Illinois, that is one of those like barge level.
James Franco, what are you doing? Yeah. Barge all day.
Guys, he can run, and he actively is running. Are you not going to course correct and stop him from doing that? I just, 10 days, 2 weeks later, I still can't fathom how that didn't get at least like competitive to stop him from running.
I agree with you.
Pick to click defensively. I feel like a guy we haven't mentioned a lot. I like Torrey Cox. Ooh. I think he could be.
I was nervous to pick my guy, so I'm happy you did.
I want to see Illinois get a little bit, keep doing the man-to-man, keep running man-to-man coverage. I think Juice Clark can do it. I know we've seen Torrey Cox do it. You know, Torrey Cox is not like, if you're in a compact area, he is going to be right there on whatever receiver he's covering. He may give up a height advantage in some instances, but on some of those short intermediate passes, if they're running man, you know Torrey Cox is going to be attached at the hip to the guy that he's running. So I don't know that a pick to click is necessarily an interception, but I think he could have a couple PBUs. And I think he could be a guy because he's played things right. Like, he looks like he has been pulling the trigger. He looks like he is there. He's not made some of those plays. This feels like the make those plays game.
I like the call. I think Juice Clark could be a good one because I do think there's going to be a lot of man-to-man here. And if you're going man-to-man, it's probably going to be more PBUs than interceptions. I'm just going to throw one in the air, Joey. Hail Mary, see if it works. Who am I going to pick?
Miles Scott?
Tanner Heckel.
He's on my list.
It's time. It's time to have a really good game. I think he's solidified himself last week against Rutgers. I thought he played a little bit better. Brett Bielema told you today when you asked him about him, he's got some confidence still. You know, and I think he's been through the fire, man. And I think we see some players in their first year, they go through the fire. Jaheim Clark was one of these guys last year. The last couple games, you start to see them emerge. And what if I told you Tanner Heckle still has the only interception for a defensive back this year for Illinois? That's insane. Like, absolutely.
That is, yeah.
Absolutely.
They only have 2, right?
Yes, Dylan Rosiak and
Rosiak.
So I'm going to go with Tanner Heckle. I think he's really important in this game. A lot of quick routes, a lot of stuff thrown over the middle of the field. He's going to have to tackle. He's got to show he's better there. But I think there's going to be a lot of action his way. I think Tanner Heckle is going to have a chance to make some plays, whether it's tackling or make a play on the ball. So it's a bold pick. I know he's had a lot of downs here during Big Ten play, but I do think you usually see these guys emerge and play better ball late in the year once they've gone through it all.
Yeah, he was very much on my list for the same reasons of playing some man, and you're going to have a little bit. Tanner Heckle at some point is going to look back on those 6 games in the middle of the season. Like, that feels very much like in 2 years, in 3 years, next year, right? Where you're like, yeah, my first start was at Indiana that year that Indiana had Mendoza.
Was Xavier Scott's first start at Michigan?
Michigan, yeah. Yeah, so then lucky you get out of Indiana. You don't have to deal with that anymore, and you go home with at USC next. There's Jaden Maeva and Makai Lemon. You go to Purdue, and you can breathe a little bit. And then it just feels like that's going to be kind of the story for him next year and the year, and he'll be better for it. It's been rough at times now, but Illinois has stuck with him. I think that's been very intentional for Illinois to do and make sure that he comes out of this. But that's going to be kind of that thing. It reminded me a little bit of, obviously, Xavier Scott. But you remember that spring? Poor Brandon Henderson shows up to spring. It's like, welcome to Illinois. By the way, listen, you're going to have to, in spring ball, have to go up against Gabe Ackes, Johnny Newton, Keith Randolph, Seth Coleman, I believe, was on that team. And good luck, buddy. Like, we'll catch you later. But he was better for that. And I think it's cliche, but I think that could be a story of Tanner Heckle.
Yeah. So it'd be interesting to see how he does this game and the season. Bold predictions, offense, Joey, who you got?
I did not get this far in my prep.
I'll go first if you want to. I'll give you some time. I don't know how bold this is, but Illinois runs for 200+ yards for a second straight game. I don't know if that's bold. That. Should I go? No, I'll just stick with 200. Because 200 yards is a lot of yards. So I'm going to go 200+ yards for a second straight game. I think that'd be how many times they've done it this year? Not many. Twice. Yeah, Western Illinois and Rutgers. So, 200 yards against Big Ten team for a second straight game. We've been talking about offensive line advantage, what Maryland's defense has done. So, I just think it sets up well for the rushing game.
I like that. It does feel like this needs to be a rushing bold prediction.
Zag, Joey. Zag.
I do want to zag a little bit. I'm trying to talk my way through this to pull up some numbers here. I also feel like we've kind of left some Jordan Anderson touchdowns on the board.
No longer, he already got it. He got it once. We got to retire Jordan Anderson. It feels like we've got to retire tight end touchdowns, Cole Rusk, right? Because we've kind of done those.
All right. I'll say 3 touchdowns.
I'd love to do like a Cole Rusk 80+ yards, but just coming off an injury 2 weeks ago.
Since I now remember that I had the Luke Altmaier bold prediction for touchdown passes before the season, I'm going to 5. Listen, 5's a lot when I think they're going to run the ball pretty well, but I do think 3. I do think 3 touchdown passes for Luke Altmaier. Nebraska had 4. UCLA had 1. Indiana had 2. Indiana also had 4 rushing touchdowns in the game that was largely over before you knew it. Rutgers threw for 4 touchdowns against this Maryland defense, especially in the red zone. I feel like, hey, I get you have Caden Fagan. I get that you could just barrel it through there with them. I know you can get creative. You know what the best red zone offense is? Letting really smart Luke Altmaier, who understands everything about this offense, find someone wide open with a good play call. So I'll say 3 passing touchdowns for Luke Altmaier. And then we get back on track for the big bowl prediction.
I was thinking, like, they throw the ball, get the ball in the end zone a lot, right? Like, but it's not that big of a split. It's 19 passing. Or I guess 20 passing because Luke Altmaier, 20 passing and 16 touchdowns. But Hank Beatty's got 1 running. Luke Altmaier's got 3 running. Hank Beatty's got 1 passing as well. So it's not as big. So Barry mixes it up down there. But they usually try to throw it. It feels like more to get in the end zone once they even towards the goal line. But I guess it's a little more balanced than we thought. All right. Defense bold prediction. I'll go with mine first, Joe, in case you don't have yours yet.
I don't. So you know your audience.
I just mentioned it, so I kind of spoiled it. I think the Illinois secondary gets its first interception of Big Ten play. I think it's time. It's time. One interception from the secondary the entire season, and it was week 2 at Duke with Tanner Heckel later in that game. It's time, man. Somebody. Juice Clark, has he had one in his career yet? Time to get one of those. Miles Scott, if he's that deep free safety, time to go pick one off if Malik Washington throws it deep down the sideline. Matthew Bailey in the middle of the field. Tanner Heckel, make a crazy athletic play that reminds us why they love you so much. It's just time for somebody in that secondary to make a play on the ball and take the ball away, Joey.
Well, awfully kind of you to go first because you took the interception one that I thought was a layup. And we also just talked about the Malik Washington doesn't get sacked. So I can't necessarily take,
that would be a bold one, though. I was thinking of a 4-sack game or something like that.
I have kicked the tires. I'm currently in the TFL rabbit hole right now. But I will say, Gabe Akis gets back on the forced fumble train, and he does it with a strip sack.
There you go.
Strip sack of a freshman quarterback. Very bold of me for Gabe Akis to say Gabe Akis will strip sack a freshman quarterback. But the guy, that would literally be half of the sacks that Malik Washington has taken this season. That is one of the weirdest stats imaginable for a freshman quarterback to not get sacked and the amount of times that he's been pressured. That's insane.
I agree. I really did think of Gabe Akis as somebody who could end the season really well because of the matchups he's going to have. And last week, 2 weeks ago, showed that against Rutgers with an offensive line that had so many injuries and was shuffling guys around. Maryland does have a veteran offensive line, guys who have been there. They do give up some pressure, but they've only allowed 3 sacks. But they will have some opportunities against Wisconsin and those quarterbacks. 19 sacks they've given up so far this year. Northwestern has had 12 sacks, which is actually pretty decent. But I do think Gabe Akis will have the chance to make some plays and, maybe threaten that double-digit mark. He's got 6.5 with 3 games left. And if there's one guy that I don't know from playing the bowl game, it'd be Gabe Akis, who I think is pretty solidified as a top 100 pick.
Yeah, that could be right. He was another guy that came to mind when I was thinking about the end of the season strong, and maybe he does it against. Now, the left side, we should say the left side of the Maryland offensive line does give up pressure. So I'll be curious if they line Gabe Akis up primarily on Saturday, but I wouldn't be surprised to see them try to attack the left side of that line.
I know Illinois is really trying to push this to be a sellout. Don't know if it'll quite get there, Joey. They've had 4 straight sellouts. I know they've had some aggressive packages with the Colgate and football game selling 2 tickets for $50. So I don't know if they'll quite get there, but should be a pretty good crowd, a later kickoff. Got to win this one, man. This is a game you should win at home. You're 15.5-point favorites according to DraftKings. Take care of the ball, play clean football, right? And I think your passing offense and your offense should do work here. But Malik Washington can make plays, and they have given some good teams, Nebraska, Washington, some fits, man, so that they can hang around in games and give people scares. It's just, can they do it for 4 quarters? That's the question with Maryland.
Yeah, you can't sleepwalk through it, but you should be talented enough. You should be good enough offensively to give yourself some wiggle room there if Malik Washington makes a play or 2.
All right, we got Katie Hultin, Illini soccer coach, coming up next. But Joey Wagner, thank you, buddy. Always appreciate it.
Appreciate you, man.
Fall always feels like a reset. Between back to school, busier routines, and shorter days, finding time to cook can be tough. That's why I love Factor. Their chef prep, dietitian approved meals make it easy to stay on track and enjoy something comforting and delicious no matter how hectic the season gets. The great thing, more variety and more meals with Factor. Choose from a wider selection of weekly meal options, including premium seafood choices like salmon and shrimp at no extra cost. Support your wellness goals as well. Enjoy even more with GLP-1 friendly meals meals and new Mediterranean diet options packed with protein and good-for-you fats. For more choices to better nutrition, that's why 97% of customers say that Factor helped them live a healthier life. Feel the difference no matter your routine. Eat smart at factormeals.com/Illini50off and use code Illini50off to get 50% off your first box, plus free breakfast for 1 year. That's code Illini50off at factormeals.com for 50% off your first box, plus free breakfast for 1 year. Get delicious, ready-to-eat meals delivered with Factor. Offer only valid for new Factor customers with code and qualifying auto-renewing subscription purchase. Happy to bring on Illini soccer coach Katie Hultin, the Illini women back in the NCAA tournament for the first time in 12 years. That's a long time since they made the big dance, but they're the number 10 seed, take on number 7 seed Memphis in Memphis on Saturday at 7 p.m. Katie, congratulations. Thanks for joining us. What was that moment like for you guys?
A little nerve-wracking. We definitely knew we were on the bubble. I think, we were really, really hopeful. I think we were depending on people in the room on the committee to make the right decision, but so excited, so happy for the team. Definitely a well-earned tournament berth.
What do you feel like for a lot of the girls that have been here? I mean, you have a lot of people who've been in this program for a while. That moment, what does that mean for them, moving forward, and just to have that moment together?
They've been wanting that since they got here. I think it's a goal that they've all had, and I think it felt really real this year that it was a possibility. But they'd never even seen a selection show before this year, so that was something we had to educate them on how the selection process even worked. But absolutely elated for all of them. Sid Stevens, who's a 6th year. She stuck around for a reason, and I'm just so happy that it's all paid off. All this hard work is paid off, but we're not done yet. We still got to go win some games.
Yeah, I want to ask you about flipping that switch now, but when did you think this was possible for this team? Katie, was it the preseason, or did you have to see something in the season? When did you know that this was possible for this team?
I think it was really great to go through non-conference play undefeated. That was pretty spectacular. I think I started to get a hint of it when we went down against Kentucky and we were able to come back and win 2-1. And then it was really real after the fight against Penn State. When we came out on top of that game, it felt like this team knew exactly what we wanted to do this season, and that was make a statement and play as long as we possibly could. And I think those 2 games were really really telling. And I even think the Maryland game, after we lost to Ohio State 3-0 and then battled in Maryland and scored in the last 5 minutes to win it, those are just big character check moments, culture check moments, and just a lot of grit. And if you got a team with grit, you can play a lot longer than just regular season.
Can I mean, your job is to assess a lot and, fix and tinker and all that. Can you self-assess for a moment? Like, what do you think you did to help this team reach its goals?
I think I'll take this to my grave, but I did something this year that I don't know, I'm really happy about. We talked a ton about confidence this year, and I think I've talked about confidence every year as a coach, but this year we dove deep into confidence. We dove deep into our individual identity, not just our team identity, because we know that exists, but our individual identity and confidence and resilience, and how we find that confidence and where that confidence comes from, and just helping all of these athletes figure out that, like, their confidence doesn't come from me. Their confidence doesn't come from their parents. Their confidence comes from their past successes and their preparation. So really hitting hard on that. I think it sounds crazy because it's not a whole lot of soccer, but it's helped a ton. And then I think the other thing is just our training environment is so intense and so competitive every single day that environment helps us prepare for our game days. And that builds confidence. It kind of just all goes back to that confidence piece. And we just stayed in the moment. Everything we did was in the moment, one game at a time, one day at a time. And those little things, I think, really helped us get through the season. But I think confidence was a really big piece of the year.
I would imagine each player is different, but how do you find that? How do you build that confidence, especially with a team that hadn't won like this?
It's just a lot of check-ins, a lot of small conversations, a lot of reminding them of, like, you know, their past successes and having them do those self-checks as well. We did a lot of, like, mental coaching, mind gym training. We probably did a lot of it and they didn't even know we were doing it. But yeah, just a lot of just reminding them of where it comes from. And it takes work. Like, all of that mental conditioning takes as much work as actually training on the ball. So we tried to tap into that as much as we possibly could this season. And I think, you know, it helped a majority of the team. And I think the ones that it hasn't hit with yet, it will eventually in their career. But again, we think that these are also life lessons that they're going to be able to walk away from and walk into the real world more confident and understand where confidence comes from. So not just soccer, it's bigger than soccer.
Brett Bielema always talks about learning how not to lose games first and then learning how to win games. How did this team, how'd you help this team learn how to win games, not lose games, things like that?
We focused on us. I think it's really easy in coaching to get really fixated on the opponent and what the opponent's doing and how are we going to deal with what the opponent's doing. And instead, we really focused on us. How can we really impose our ability, our skill, our talent, our sophistication, our, you know, we call them our superpowers on the opponent and not play in fear. And I think that was a big piece of it. Again, goes back to confidence, is playing with confidence, not playing in fear, playing our style and not worrying about the opponent. Like, do everything that we know to do well and we'll be all right.
You're a great goalkeeper, Katie. You have a great goalkeeper now in Izzy Lee. She set the single season saves record with 118 already, and she can build on that as you guys get in the NCAA tournament here. What makes her great?
There's a lot that makes her great. She's pretty cool, calm, and collected. She is by far the most athletic female goalkeeper I've seen of her height. Like, she's 6'1", and the way she can move is, there's no one like her. She's pretty stoic back there, and just solid. She's just solid, but trains really well. She's just got her ceiling is so high and she hasn't even come close to it yet. So that's what we're really excited for. She's just going to keep getting better and better, but yeah, I don't know if the save record is something to, like, write home about, because that means she got a lot of work. Right. But I will say, defensively, we did a really good job of forcing shots from spaces that were savable. So if you look at the goals she conceded last year, most of those goals came straight up the middle. And this year, most of the saves she's making are because we're forcing teams wide, and they're pretty savable shots. And so we haven't put her under as much pressure maybe as she was under last year. But yeah, she's done a fantastic job for us.
You also had a couple other all Big Ten players, Sarah Foley, a returner, senior, Georgia transfer, Kayla Jackson, also earned all Big Ten honors, sophomore. It's coming back. I know Emma Yee, a sophomore, had a really good season, some others. How did that all mix? You know, the youth with the returners, how did that play out? I mean, we talked about confidence, but schematically, how did it all work for you guys?
The returners did an amazing job of, like, buying in right away, but we moved everyone around. Leah Howard played as a target forward in her career, but we moved her into the midfield, which made room for a Kayla Jackson to play up top. You know, I think Lauren Seppi, she got hurt, but we moved her into center back for a while. Sid Stevens, she was injured last year, kind of played all over in the past. And we knew as a 6-year we needed her on the field. So we put her in the midfield, and we just kind of made it work in the midfield, and they did a really, really good job. But we knew we needed, you know, certain personnel on the field. especially as we were bringing youth onto the field. We needed the returners to be on the field. So we just we moved a lot of people around to make sure that we had the right amount of soccer savviness with the right amount of athleticism all on the field at the same time. So Ashlyn Adams, who's a freshman, never played outside back in her life. We moved her to outside back. We just moved players around so that we could have our best 11 on the field as much as we could.
Memphis on Saturday here. What do you think of this matchup? What do you think of this team coming up this weekend?
Yeah, we're really excited. I told the team, like, there's not a whole lot of schools in this country that I haven't been to. So Memphis, I've never played against. I've never been to their campus. It's a fun opportunity to get to know a different part of the country, different conference. But yeah, we're excited. I think Memphis feels like they got gypped. They think that they should have had a higher seed. So who knows how they're going to come out and play, if it's in anger or whatever it is. But yeah, we're excited. We know that they've been undefeated all season. So there's that, you know, there's that dangling carrot that we could be that team that beats them. But yeah, they've got some really great internationals on their team. They score a lot of goals. They don't concede many. They play a little bit differently than quite a few teams that we've played against. So excited for a new challenge.
It'll be on ESPN Plus for anybody that wants to watch on Saturday night, 7:00. Last one for you, Katie. I know you're focused on getting around to 32, but what does it mean in your first year here to get back to the Big Ten tournament, get back to the NCAA tournament? What's that mean in your effort to kind of build this program up?
Like, it's unbelievable. I'm incredibly proud of what we've accomplished as a staff and as a team. And I think it helps us in so many ways. Like, this kind of puts a stamp on who we are and who we want to be. And it's going to help with recruiting. It's going to help with future years. And I'll tell you, back in 2013, I was not part of the program, but I joined the program right after. Yeah. And I remember watching Illinois' journey through the tournament. And they were definitely the last team in. They had to travel to Washington State University, which is my alma mater. They beat my alma mater in PK shootout in an absolute mud bowl, and then turned around and played Portland in the second round. And Janelle Flaws, who was the leading goal scorer in the country at the time, had this crazy goal, picked off a pass that like was supposed to be a set piece. It was bizarre. They won in overtime. And then went on. I think they lost to Baylor after that, but to be back in a place where like we can make a run in the NCAA tournament, and to be back in a place like, I mean, the last time that Illinois made it, Janelle Flaws and Vanessa DiBernardo were on the team. Those are two of the best players to ever play at Illinois. And so I feel like we're there. Like we can go make a run like they did in 2013, and we can really, like, you know, we can be a force in the NCAA tournament.
Katie Hultin, Illini soccer coach. Katie, thanks for the time, and good luck this weekend. I know we'll all be watching.
Awesome. Thanks, Jeremy.